Have you ever prayed for something only to hear nothing? No answer, no sign, just silence. It feels like God isn't listening, doesn't it? But what if I told you that silence isn't rejection, it's preparation? What if God's quiet moments are actually His way of setting you up for something far greater than you could imagine? Stick with me, because today, we're going to uncover why God says wait, what He's really doing in those silent seasons, and how you can find peace even when it feels like nothing is happening. Let me tell you a story. A few years ago, I was praying for a job. I had applied everywhere, sent out resumes, and even reached out to connections. But for months, nothing happened. No calls, no interviews, just silence. I remember sitting in my room one night, feeling completely forgotten. I cried out to God, "Why aren't you answering me? Don't you care?" But here's what I didn't realize at the time. God wasn't ignoring me. He was preparing me. That season of waiting taught me patience, resilience, and how to trust Him even when I couldn't see the next step. And when the right opportunity finally came, it was so much better than anything I had originally asked for. Maybe you're in that same place right now. Maybe you're waiting for a job, a relationship, healing, or a breakthrough. And maybe, just maybe, God is using this season to prepare you for something incredible. So why does God make us wait? Is it to test us, to frustrate us, or is there a deeper purpose behind it? In this video, we're going to break it all down. We'll look at 1. The real reasons God says wait, and why His timing is always perfect. 2. The hidden blessings in the waiting season that most people miss. 3. How you can wait well, without losing hope or giving up on your faith. But here's something you might not know. Some of the greatest stories in the Bible, stories of miracles, breakthroughs, and life-changing moments, started with a season of waiting. Joseph waited in prison before becoming a ruler. Moses waited 40 years in the wilderness before leading the Israelites. Even Jesus waited 30 years before starting His ministry. What if your waiting season is just the beginning of your greatest story? So, if you've ever felt stuck, forgotten, or unsure of what God is doing, this video is for you. Let's uncover the truth about waiting and how it can transform your life. Why does God make us wait? Is He ignoring us? Is He punishing us? Or is there something bigger going on that we can't see yet? Let's be honest, waiting is hard. It feels like time is standing still, while everyone else is moving forward. But what if I told you that waiting isn't a waste of time? What if it's actually one of the most important parts of your journey? Here's the truth. God's timing is perfect. Even when it doesn't make sense to us, He sees the bigger picture. Think about it. We live in a world of instant everything. Instant food, instant messages, instant answers. But God doesn't work on our schedule. He works on His. Ecclesiastes 3:11 says, "He has made everything beautiful in its time." Notice that, in its time, not ours, not when we think it should happen, but when it's exactly right. Have you ever planted a seed? You can't rush it to grow. You water it. You give it sunlight, but you have to wait for it to sprout. In the same way, God is working behind the scenes, even when we can't see it. His timing is always perfect, even when it feels slow. Think about this. If God had answered all your prayers immediately, would you have grown as much as you have? Would you have learned patience, perseverance, or trust? Sometimes the waiting is the very thing that shapes us into who we're meant to be. Now, here's something you might not realize. Waiting is often a time of preparation. It's not just about killing time, it's about getting ready for what's coming next. Think about Joseph. He was sold into slavery by his own brothers, thrown into prison for something he didn't do, and forgotten for years. But during that time, God was preparing him. Joseph learned leadership, humility, and trust in God. And when the time was right, he became the second most powerful man in Egypt, saving countless lives during a famine. Maybe you're in your own prison right now. Maybe it's a job you don't like, a season of loneliness, or a dream that hasn't come true yet. But what if this is your preparation ground? What if God is using this time to shape you into the person He needs you to be for what's coming next? Here's a thought. What if the thing you're waiting for requires a version of you that doesn't exist yet? What if God is using this season to build your character, your faith, and your strength so you can handle what's coming? Here's another reason God makes us wait, to test and strengthen our faith. Waiting forces us to rely on God, not on ourselves. It's easy to trust God when everything is going well. But when we're stuck in the waiting room of life, That's when our faith is really tested. Think about Abraham. God promised him a son, but Abraham had to wait 25 years for that promise to be fulfilled. During that time, his faith was tested over and over again. But in the end, his trust in God grew stronger, and he became known as the father of faith. Maybe you're waiting for a promise too, a breakthrough, a healing, a miracle, and maybe it feels like it's taking forever. But here's the thing, every day you wait, your faith is growing. Every day you choose to trust God, even when you can't see the answer, you're becoming stronger. Here's a question to think about. If God answered your prayer today, would you be ready for it? Or do you still need to grow in faith, patience, or trust? Sometimes, the waiting is less about the answer and more about the person you're becoming while you wait. So, let me ask you this. What are you waiting for right now? Is it a job? A relationship? Healing? A dream? Whatever it is, I want you to write it in the comments. Let's create a space where we can support and pray for each other. Because here's the truth. Waiting is hard, but you're not alone. God sees you. He hears you, and He's working even when you can't see it. So, let's take this journey together. Let's trust His timing, embrace the preparation, and grow our faith, one day at a time. What if I told you that waiting is not a punishment? It's a gift. What if the very thing you're frustrated about right now is actually setting you up for something incredible? It's easy to see waiting as a waste of time. But what if I told you that some of the greatest blessings in life come from the seasons we spend waiting? Let's uncover the hidden treasures in the waiting room of life. One of the biggest blessings of waiting is spiritual growth. When everything is moving fast, it's easy to get distracted. But when we're forced to wait, we have no choice but to slow down and focus on what really matters. Think about Moses. He spent 40 years in the wilderness, tending sheep, before God called him to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. During those years, Moses learned to rely on God in ways he never could have in the palace. His waiting season was a time of deep spiritual growth. Maybe you're in a season of waiting right now. Maybe it feels like nothing is happening. But what if God is using this time to draw you closer to Him? What if the silence you're experiencing is actually an invitation to hear His voice more clearly? Here's a thought. Sometimes, God allows us to wait because He wants us to know Him better. Not just know about Him, but truly know Him, His heart, His voice, His presence. And that kind of intimacy can only come in the quiet moments of waiting. Another hidden blessing of waiting is character development. Let's be honest, waiting is hard. It tests our patience, our resilience, and our humility. But it's in those moments of testing that we grow the most. Think about David. He was anointed king as a young shepherd boy, but he didn't step into that role for 15 years. During that time, he was hunted, betrayed, and forced to live in caves. But those years shaped him into the man after God's own heart. He learned to trust God in the darkest moments, and that trust became the foundation of his leadership. Maybe you're in a season of waiting that feels like a wilderness. Maybe you're facing challenges that seem unfair or overwhelming. But what if this is your training ground? What if God is using this time to build qualities in you that will prepare you for what's next? Here's the truth. The waiting room is where character is built. It's where we learn patience when things don't go our way, resilience when we feel like giving up, and humility when we realize we're not in control. And those qualities are worth more than gold. Here's another hidden blessing of waiting: protection. Sometimes God makes us wait because what we're asking for isn't what's best for us. He sees the bigger picture, and He knows what we can't see. Think about the Israelites. When they left Egypt, they could have taken the shortest route to the Promised Land, but God led them through the wilderness instead. Why? Because He knew they weren't ready for the battles ahead. The waiting season was their protection. Maybe you're praying for something right now and it feels like God is saying no or not yet, but what if He's protecting you? What if the thing you're asking for would actually harm you or distract you from His plan? Sometimes, the greatest blessing is the thing God doesn't give us. Here's a question to think about. Can you look back at a time when you didn't get what you wanted, only to realize later that it was for your good? Sometimes the no or not yet is God's way of saying, I've got something better for you. Now, I want to hear from you. Can you look back at a time when waiting turned out to be a blessing? Maybe it was a job you didn't get, a relationship that didn't work out, or a dream that took longer than you expected. How did that season shape you? What did you learn? Share your story in the comments. Let's create a space where we can encourage each other and remind ourselves that waiting isn't wasted time, it's a gift. And who knows? Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. So, the next time you find yourself in a season of waiting, remember this. It's not a punishment, it's an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to trust God in ways you never have before. And that's a blessing worth waiting for. Waiting is hard, but it's never wasted. In today's message, we've seen that God is always working behind the scenes, even when it feels like nothing is happening. He is preparing you, strengthening your faith, and aligning everything for His perfect plan. Your waiting season is not your stopping point. It's your stepping stone. Trust in God's timing because He is never late. What may seem like a delay is actually divine preparation. Hold on, stay faithful, and know that breakthrough is coming. If this message encouraged you, hit the like button and share it with someone who needs this reminder today. Subscribe for more uplifting content on faith, prayer, and spiritual growth. Comment below, what's one thing you're trusting God for right now? I'd love to pray for you.